Well, Alex, thank you so much for being a guest on the podcast today.
Oh, it's an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. I feel absolutely honoured. Following on from the last set of guests you've just had on the show as well, such wonderful podcasts. Excited to be here. I think this might be episode 37, if I'm right. Which is
Oh, wow, look at you. You've done your homework. I love it. You get an A already.
well, honestly, yeah, as I said, the work that you and the team do in this series is so enjoyable to listen to. So yeah, as I said, an absolute honor to be here.
Well, thank you so much. So you come from Hootsuite, and I think we at GradCom use Hootsuite as part of our platform in helping clients. But for those out there who don't know what it is or aren't familiar with the company, fill us in.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's interesting. Like Hootsuite is one of those brand names I think pretty much everyone at some point in their life has either heard of or interacted with in some shape or form. But it doesn't necessarily always mean everyone knows exactly what we do. So it's a very good question. But I guess for us, we kind of see ourselves as the forefront of social innovation. So we've been leading the way for more than a decade. We were the first ever social media management company. So I think we just hit 14 years now. And that's an incredible thing, and particularly in the technology landscape, and certainly in the world of social media, 14 years is a very long time. So what that has allowed us to do as a company is really build up like some unparalleled expertise around social media management as a technology, but then overlapping that with like social insights, employee advocacy, social customer care, a range of strategic things that are just really important to our customers. And actually really even more importantly, so many of the students and the professionals, particularly in the education space, to take through our courses. So we kind of created the category, continue to innovate in the space. It's given us an edge because of this like really detailed focus on education, which has been such an important part of my journey here. And we offer like a slew of different solutions really for all businesses. Obviously, we're very tailored to the education space, but no matter what size of business you are, whether you're focusing on employee advocacy, social listening. I know like crisis communications has been something that's been brought up on this podcast a whole range of times. And that's an area I'm really passionate about, through to scheduling and publishing solution, analytics, social customer care. What else am I missing? Social advertising, and even more recently, like around like helping with writer's block. So the introduction of our brand new tool, Owly Writer, which is an AI solution to support social media marketers.
Wonderful. Well, first of all, I want to talk a little bit more about your role at Hootsuite and especially about the work you've done in higher education. But before we get there, I just can't believe that it's been 14 years,
Yeah,
which is crazy.
I know.
I mean, that's insane. I mean, 14 years ago was 2010, and that doesn't seem that long ago, but it was so long ago.
Yeah, I know. I know. It's something like I always look back on, and I think we see this world of social just changing at such a rapid pace. And it actually makes it one of the hardest things for the modern social media marketer, because how do you continue to keep up at the rate of a sector that has changed quicker than probably anything we've ever seen before? Which again, I guess is such why it's so valuable that we do have like courses like we do to be able to support those in this landscape.
Great. Yeah. You know what? That's an excellent point, is it does change so much, and maybe that's why it still always feels so new. But social media
Yes.
isn't necessarily new anymore. I mean, it's been around. I remember being a teaching assistant in my master's program like 25 years ago, and everyone was on MySpace. I had students give
Yeah,
speeches about it. I mean, that's like 2 decades ago.
I
But it does,
know.
it feels new every day.
It really does. I think about back when I was at university, and yeah, that was still like the MySpace was still the front and center, and then Facebook comes along and completely changes everything. And as you said, it just felt so new and so like just such an open space at that time. And to think that now, when I think about the modern university that I speak with, so much of the feedback is, so what do we do? Like, where do we go with TikTok? Like, how do I double down in what I currently have? Do I invest in this new technology to be able to compete, or do I just leave it well alone? And then as that changes, Instagram does a new update to their algorithm, and Facebook changes the way that business manager operates, and Be Real pops up and Snapchat comes back again. And people are like, well, how do I make sure ultimately I'm executing on the value and the strategy of my institution, and ultimately delivering what my audience expects us to do so?
Yeah. Now you have a background, and Hootsuite has a great background in higher education. So tell us a little bit about what your role is at Hootsuite and Hootsuite's intersection in the higher education world.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll absolutely tell you, like, this is the part for me that gets me, I guess, fills me with like the most, the passion and excitement about doing what I do, because my journey in the education space into Hootsuite has been a really, really long one. We talk about how long Hootsuite's been around. Well, that's actually kind of when my journey with the education sector began. So I graduated, I actually studied digital media and communications at the University of Brighton in the UK. And then I moved into my first job at the Guardian national newspaper. And when I joined there, this was a really exciting juncture in the digital landscape, because newspapers, like so many other publishers in this world, had to operate this brand new strategy and environment, which was this transition from print across to digital. And that transition was a lot harder than a lot of people will remember. Right, this was a time where brands, and particularly institutions and universities, had to work out ways to engage with new audiences, who had diversified away from that traditional putting an advert inside of a newspaper or sponsoring a piece of editorial content, through to having this whole breadth of new ways of investigating institutions, doing their research about them, making choices about attending. And that's what really got me into the education sector. I suddenly joined this brilliant team where we were helping institutions with this digital transformation project. We were building out content marketing partnerships with these institutions that were allowing them to reach new audiences in different ways and be seen as thought leaders. And we were helping ultimately look at this like global audience that chose content, and then obviously managed to like influence and redirect that through to institutions so that they could help them with their goals. And that got me. That was it. I was like, there was something so rewarding about working for a company that is invested in education and driving outcomes that are really, really meaningful. And that's what brought me to Hootsuite. So after 7 years of working there, I had the opportunity to join Hootsuite. And when I looked at what we were doing as a company, even back then, so this was in 2016, I could see that we were already doing something that was more than just technology. There was a genuine passion and a meaningfulness behind what we did. And there was this natural alignment from the very beginning between Hootsuite and the education sector. And for me, that was what pulled me across, because I do believe in this life. You could have the best technology in the world, but if you don't have that education, the strategy, the experience, and the expertise behind it to be able to align those two things together, you can't have one without the other, in my opinion.
Excellent. I mean, that is so true, right? And I'm really fascinated. We use Hootsuite here at GradCom, and I used it when I was in higher education too. But I really didn't understand or know until I met you, Alex, that Hootsuite really has this dedication to the higher education arena. And it makes a lot of sense, because at the core of social media, I mean, is the name social, and we want to build communities and we want to be social. And there's no better place in the world to build a community than on a college campus. So social media becomes such an integral tool of how we build community and talk to students and get information out and share information. And I can't imagine a college without it now. I mean, it's part of our infrastructure. It's how students learn about what's going on and what's happening and what's next. So
Yeah.
I know it's smart of Hootsuite to have such a specialty, but it's also so important, I think, for the company to assist in that way as well.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And as you said, I don't think there is many institutions now globally that at some point won't have, looked at what they're doing and thinking there is so many areas that we need to deliver on. How do we do that with efficiency? How do we lead with data-driven insights? How do we scale? How do we actually become an efficient brand to our audiences without having this type of technology in place? But it is difficult because for so many, marketeers in this ever evolving space like ours, like is where they don't often have like the full support of maybe some more like commercially driven businesses that may have 5, 10, 15 people supporting a marketing and communications effort. And in fact, more often than not, it might just be a one-person team. So with that, how do you create an environment that allows for an institution, no matter what size they are, to still be able to deliver the valuable information that is so critical to its audience, which is ultimately like students, parents, people invested, career advisors, whatever it may be. It's about how you get that information to the masses in a really efficient way when you might not have the full resources of other businesses.
That's so true. I mean, that's probably one of the most common questions I get from clients is how do we do this? There's only me.
Yeah, right.
College expects me to do everything. How am I on TikTok and Instagram and Facebook and support the president and write the board presentation and take pictures? Like it's just one
Yeah,
person
exactly.
doing it all.
Exactly. I mean, you only have to go to LinkedIn to see the very fair and very valid social media commentary around, the expectations of education social media marketer.
Yeah.
It's 10 jobs in one. And whereas I see that obviously as a challenge because of obviously the amount of skills and expertise needed. What a wonderful skill set to also be able to take away and say, hey, okay, yes, it's a lot, but think about all of these incredible skill sets and ways I'm able to take information and content and then put that into an environment that's obviously advantageous and beneficial to those who need to see it.
Now, one thing that Hootsuite's offering and that you've just revamped is a social media certification. And I think I'm really interested in talking about this because first of all, a lot of colleges, especially community colleges, don't have really a professional development curriculum for staff. They do for faculty. As part of faculty load, you have to continuously learn. So it's in the fabric of the institution. But there's not always a budget or time for staff members or administrators to do certifications. So I love the fact that Hootsuite's put something together that I think is free, right, or very low cost. And that can help people get better and more efficient at their job. So tell me a little bit about what is this certification? What does it cost? What does it do? Why would people want to get certified? What is it?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think you nailed it there perfectly. Like when I look at what some of the most common like strategic themes that happen in higher education. And interestingly, whether or not this actually kind of applies to both staff retention and student retention, it's just around how you can use certifications and professional development to really deepen relationships with your staff, particularly in times when they might be a team of one or a smaller team as a collective, to feel like they're being invested in and to understand that there is like a two-way exchange between taking a certification, becoming leveled up and have the insights to be able to develop and adapt in this ever-changing landscape, but also knowing that your career opportunities are going to be, amplified off the back of it. So, I mean, when it comes to those certifications, this is where I talked about this wonderful blend between Hootsuite having this this technology and then this like Halo brand certification program. It just really reinforces that idea that we are truly embedded in the education sector and we care when we want to give back. So I'll answer your question in two ways there, because there are different elements that make up this brand new course that we've just launched, which I'm really, really excited about. And it's been an absolute joy to be part of it. I was part of the original course and then I've been part of this revamped version as well. But before I get into it, I just want to share a really powerful stat with you. Okay, because I found this and I thought this is exactly why we need to be helping support a new generation, a continuously evolving generation of those who are building out social strategies and need to understand what's going on. So right now, more than 4.7 billion people around the world are using social media. It's 4.7 billion, which is more than 70% of the eligible global population. So if you think about like how that is only going to continue to grow, That means there are audiences every single year who are more and more susceptible to social, who are then going to be using it as a form of researching an institution, engaging with an institution, and ultimately informing the way that they're going to be at that institution throughout their entire time there. So social media has really become like the standard for higher education institutions, whether that's from student relations to recruitment through to like fundraising and crisis management. And really for us, we wanted to make sure we were building programs and certifications that were going to support those who are either coming into the sector for the first time, or maybe those who have been in it for forever, but need to constantly, update their skill sets and their understanding of it so they could go out and cater to their audiences in the best way.
That's fantastic. I actually thought of you over the weekend because we have an internship program here at GradCom, and we had, we're looking at resumes, and there was one young woman from Cal State San Marcos, which is a university here in Southern California, and she's Hootsuite certified. And everybody on our team goes, oh, "This intern's Hootsuite certified." Now she's she's top of the pile.
I love that.
So we were all really excited. Look at this on her resume, and so she did it in college. So it's something that anybody can do at any point of their career.
Well, that absolutely melts my heart, because this is honestly, this is why we do it. Part of what I try to do as someone who is a specialist in the education sector globally for Hootsuite, is that I do believe that we need to give back. If we are a partner to the education sector, then we also need to be creating content and delivering experiences that mirror that, because it is a two-way partnership. And the certification of students is something I'm extremely passionate about. I often actually guest lecture at universities as well as part of like the partnership exchange, because I think about when I graduated in 2009, which dates how old I am now, and in a degree in digital media and communications. I would have wished so much to have had the opportunity to have left that course with a set of certifications from like a halo technology brand like Hootsuite that would have allowed me to have gone into the workforce with a sense of understanding, a skill set, a certification that I could reference on my CV and on my LinkedIn, and as something that I could go to an employer and say, I can do this without you even having to train me.
Yeah.
And to your point, what did that do? That put that one intern to the top of the pile.
Right.
Like, that's what we should be. This is what we want to do this. We want to equip a new generation to be able to come out and feel that confidence that they deserve in arguably one of the most competitive job markets there is at the moment.
Right. And everybody wants to be a social media coordinator or your marketing intern. Like, everybody wants to do it. So what a great way to stand apart is showing that not only are you taking college classes, but you're taking the time to get certified. And that's the same for, I think, staff at colleges as well. Like, we look at a lot of resumes when we hire, who's taken the time to really invest in their own professional development. That shows that you really care about growing professionally and keeping up with the trends. I looked at your certification coursework, and it's really robust. So share with us some of the modules that people will go through. What will they learn as they work their way through the classes?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, just to recap, I kind of referenced the course, but I'll give it its full official introduction title. So this is Hootsuite's brand new revised social media marketing course and certification. This is a course and certification available to everyone in every industry. When it comes to education, there's two ways to it. There's the student program, which I, again, have been personally involved in for many, many years now. The reason why I want to highlight the student program is that for any of your audience listening today, do know you can go to your academics, you can go to your deans, you can go to your heads of school and say, Hootsuite has a program designed for students where we'll give access to the social marketing certification course, we'll give access to the platform certification course, and also the social advertising course. And this will allow a new generation of students to come out fully certified in the Hootsuite at no cost and really stand out from the crowd. And then for anyone else, whether it's in the education sector or any other industries, it's just $199 for the course. which for professional standard certification from one of the biggest Halo brands in the space. This is the value exchange that so many of our audience has really taken advantage of over the years. And I'll leave you with this other statistic as well, because this one blew my mind. So we have delivered over 1 million courses to over
Wow.
500,000 people worldwide. And that's been in collaboration with over 1,000 different universities.
Wow. That's fantastic. Now you haven't lectured at all thousand though.
No,
Right now.
no, sadly not. I would have liked to have done so. Honestly, it gave me, the first time I was asked to come and lecture at a university, it gave me this real sense of like connection back to that, back to my time of study, and looking at this new generation of students and thinking what an exciting new chapter they have coming into their careers. Because you and I didn't have this when we graduated. Like, a career in social media did not exist.
No.
So it's so interesting to see how that's changed over the last 14 years.
It is. I mean, it's just such a big part of our everyday life. It's fascinating. I wanted to ask you, I wanted to talk a little bit before we wrap up the conversation about some areas of the program that looked particularly interesting that I think our audience would really like to learn about.
Yeah.
I think one of your new modules has to do with DEI. Is that something new in this revamped version? And what does that mean? Like, what does that particular course or module focus on? What can we learn from it?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm so sorry. We got so wrapped into it. I
It's
didn't
okay.
even cover the last question. So let me get back to us on that, and then we'll dive into exactly that.
Great,
So
great.
this brand new course, as I mentioned, has been relaunched. And we did that because, as I said, the ever-changing landscape of social is one that happens so rapidly that we want to make sure any audience that works with us has got the most up-to-date information, strategies, and techniques to be successful. So the course is actually comprised of 5 chapters. The first one bit is building a social media strategy. The second, social media and content marketing. The third, DEI. Sorry, I'll repeat that last bit. Sorry. So the course is comprised of 5 chapters: building a social media strategy, social media content marketing, DEI and accessibility on social, building a social media community, and measuring success. And as mentioned, this is like a condensed course. We actually started with about 80 instructional videos. We brought that down to 46. We did that so that this course can be taken with greater efficiency. And we just understand that people's, day to day, we're busier than we've ever been. So we needed to build a course that reflected, our busy lifestyles. But we redesigned the content in our rebranded visual identity as well. We went for a recent rebrand, and we wanted to make sure we created an environment that reflected that. And we also brought in a whole set of new content as well. So we've actually updated a lot of the trends we talked about before and themes. We met with industry experts. We met with our instructional design team, and we built out this brand new course for our audience. But to your question, we talk about DE&I like being one of the newer aspects of it. I mean, you and I, probably everyone we've ever spoken with on this podcast series or in our day-to-day lives, we know how important this is as a theme. It's in every single strategic plan from any institution, and quite rightly so. Like, we need to create an environment in higher education that is more inclusive and supportive, to foster social justice, prepare students for a diverse society. So this chapter is really going to focus on the importance of incorporating diversity, equity, and inclusion into one social strategy. We're going to be looking at how marketeers will learn from experts about what that actually consists of, what actually happens when you apply that to social media marketing. And then by the end of the chapter, students will leave with foundational knowledge needed to launch an inclusive social media marketing program at their institution or whatever business that they go into. So yeah, it's a really vital chapter.
Yeah, that sounds like fantastic coursework. I mean, those are the exact questions that people are asking right now.
Sure.
How do we make inclusive social media? What does that look like? What are the tactics? So I kind of want to sign on and take that module myself. So maybe
I definitely recommend it. Honestly, it's really, really, really powerful chapter, and followed really by one that I'm sure you hear about all of the time. And how do I build a social media community?
Right.
So, you know, in this environment, if you think about community, you don't even need to look at higher education alone to know that every single conference that you go to, pre-pandemic, during the pandemic, and after, has the consistent theme that community is never going away.
Yeah.
But how you build upon that in an environment like education that was so obviously massively impacted by the pandemic, and how institutions had to find ways to continue to build community and connections when students weren't on campus. I mean, that's probably one of the biggest challenges that any educational institution has faced in the last, you know, decades, generations. So we wanted to build a course that's going to help support that and give advice and best practices on how that they can continue to evolve and adapt that.
That's so great. And, you know, that's such a good reminder to our listeners that social media is not just a platform for you to post a flyer for every single event that's happening on campus, which is, we come in and help some of our clients who've lost a social media manager, and somebody else on campus has taken it over, and like the entire Instagram feed is just like posting of flyers that you can't even read because they don't fit. So we're like, that's not about you just broadcasting out.
No, completely.
Yeah.
No, it has to be. I mean, ultimately, in my experience, you know, you lead with your community.
Yeah.
Listen to your audience. Like, pay attention to what they care about. Like, we as partners to the space, whether you are an institution now or you're looking to partner with someone like GradCom or Hootsuite or whoever it may be, you need to think about who your audiences are, who they are, and then you've got to think about how you engage with them in the environments that work for them, and not necessarily what traditionally worked for your institution previously. And that's hard because it does adapt so quickly. If you think about where your students are, they are on social. That's where they spend all of their time. And they want to be able to exchange with your institution on the platforms that work for them, because that's what they're doing every day. You know, 75% of students are researching an institution on social before they even engage with them on the website, before they even consider going to that open day, because it's part of that research environment that they're so familiar with because they're on it all day, every day.
Excellent. And I always remind my clients that the average student takes a year before they make a decision of what college they want to attend. So if the first place they're going is social media, they're going to be coming back and coming back and coming back. So you need to make sure that you're, you know, showing your brand and creating community and not just posting like junk.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you're not wrong there, Cheryl.
Well, gee, I wonder, this is why I do what I do and why you do what you do. We know what we're talking about here.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, as we wrap up our conversation, you know, you've had such a fascinating career, and obviously Hootsuite is such an amazing brand. Do you have any tips for our listeners on how they can stay ahead of the curve, how Hootsuite, maybe how you're staying ahead of the curve, and what they could learn from your company as a whole? What advice do you give?
Yeah, what advice do I give? Well, honestly, I think my main piece of advice is, remember, you're not in this alone. For anyone who's in the education space, you know that it's one of the most rewarding and valuable sectors in the world to work in, because it is such a community. And I know we've used that word a lot, but you'll never know, in my experience, a community quite like education professionals who are all looking at each other to say, we are actually in this together. We may technically compete, but really we are in a world that is changing so quickly. There's rarely never enough of us to be able to execute it to the scale we'd like it to do so. So what can we learn from each other, and how can we ensure ultimately we're doing the right thing, which is helping students make informed decisions, giving them hope and inspiration and information that's going to help them go to university. Because for me, that's what this is all about. Like, I would love to know that part of the work that you and I do and all of the people we work with may make the difference between that one student making that decision to say, you know what, I can do this. I can go to that college. I can go to that university, because maybe some of the information and insights and experience I received by engaging with them on social. So with that, there's often only, maybe we talked about it throughout, maybe you're just a one-person team. How do you stay ahead? How, you mentioned just a minute ago about how do you repurpose content? So I'll just leave you with some thoughts here. So there's a lot of one-person teams out there. You are not alone. What we've tried to do is help build technology that's going to help support those smaller, more nimble teams to be really effective and scale. So, for example, I mentioned earlier, we just launched a new content generation tool called Owly Writer. And Owly Writer AI is the perfect solution for a one-person team, because what it ultimately allows you to do is repurpose all of your best performing content you've ever had. It repurposes it. It gives you the opportunity to scale out multiple messages based on a success recipe from the past, whilst giving you inspiration. It's like, as a one person team, it's like life changing. You basically now have it's like having multiple jobs all in one, and it allows you to focus on the strategy part of the role. Scheduling content in advance is obviously extremely popular, but actually understanding what works and what doesn't is probably more important than ever. So using data-driven insights to inform your content strategy, repurposing content that's already performed really well and telling a story in a brand new way, keeping informed, and ultimately, yeah, like looking at ways to enhance your professional development along that journey. And that is by looking to, companies like yours and ours, where you can, level up, you can take certifications, and you can build out a strategy accordingly.
Great advice. Well, thank you. It's been such a pleasure talking to you and getting to know you. And I think that you will definitely have a lot of universities and colleges signing up for this new certification. And I really appreciate your time and your expertise. Thank you so much, Alex.
Oh, honestly, thank you so much for having me. It was an absolute pleasure. And yeah, thank you for everything that you do. And yeah, I hope we get to work together again in the future. It's been great.